Okay, so, when you think of a men's suit, you probably think business meeting or wedding, right? Pretty standard. But what if I told you that that suit actually has like a secret history? One that goes back hundreds of years and is full of these crazy power moves and style rebellions. A history that is so big, it's hard to believe it all fits into one garment.
That's exactly what we're going to be looking at today.
Right.
We are diving deep into the world of men's tailoring. And to guide us on this sartorial journey.
I love that word, sartorial, by the way.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
We have the updated edition of Sharp Suits, a celebration of men's tailoring by Eric Musgrave.
That's a good title.
It's a great title, isn't it?
Yeah.
And this updated edition actually has a new foreword by Savile Row tailor Catherine Sargent.
Oh, wow.
So that brings a really modern perspective to this deep dive into the history of tailoring.
I love that.
Yeah.
So Musgrave, he's not just like recounting, fashion history in this book.
Right.
It's almost like he's weaving this really interesting story of how the jacket and trousers became this like iconic image that we know today.
Absolutely.
And the book is amazing to look at.
It really is.
But it's also like full of all this, historical information and commentary about, how the suit really reflects the culture that it comes from.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
So for everyone listening, our goal today is to sort of take the most important and interesting parts of this book and give them to you so that you can understand like the suit's entire long story.
And all of its different meanings.
Exactly.
So much more than meets the eye.
So much more.
So where does Musgrave start with this history? Where do we begin to understand this suit?
Well, we actually have to go way back in time.
Oh, okay.
Like all the way to 1666.
Oh, wow.
To King Charles II.
Okay.
And, it might be hard to believe, but he wore this Persian-style vest.
Uh-huh.
And that is considered like the very, very beginning of the three-piece suit.
Wow.
Yeah.
So it had Eastern origins?
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
And then from there, we moved through like the Beau Brummel and
Yes.
the dandyism era.
That very elegant, refined era.
Extremely.
Yeah.
And then things really changed with the Industrial Revolution,
Oh, yeah.
which for the first time allowed people to have mass-produced clothing.
Bringing it to the masses.
Yes.
That's a key turning point.
Huge turning point.
Yeah.
So Musgrave really talks about how the suit started as something that only the very wealthy
The ruling class.
would wear.
Yes, their uniform.
Like it was their uniform.
Yeah.
But by the early 1900s, like things had completely changed.
Yeah.
And it was something that, businessmen wore or
It's just the everyday man.
like bankers, people who wanted to look like successful and competent.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting how it changed from this like elite thing to something every man could wear.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's quite a remarkable shift.
So remarkable. And, it wasn't just a straight line.
Right.
Like it wasn't like, oh, we started here and ended here.
Yeah.
Like there were all these really interesting like turning points.
Absolutely key moments.
Key moments, yeah.
Yeah.
So, back in the Victorian era, people wore frock coats,
Yeah.
which were very formal and like
Severe
looking.
Yeah.
And then in the Edwardian era, the lounge suit became popular.
Which is much more relaxed.
Yeah.
Much more comfortable.
Way more comfortable.
Yeah.
And that really reflected like how society was changing at the time.
Absolutely. It mirrors that shift toward informality,
Yeah.
even with informal wear.
Yeah, even in formal wear.
Yeah.
And then in the early 1900s, two very important things happened.
Okay.
One, Savile Row in London became like the center
Oh, yeah.
for bespoke tailoring,
The gold standard.
which is, where they make a suit
Especially for men.
for you.
Yes, for you.
Just for you.
Yeah.
And it's incredibly high quality. And
Yeah.
so that was happening in London. But at the same time,
Yeah.
in America, the ready-to-wear suit was becoming popular.
Oh, that's huge because it means that now suits are more affordable
Way more affordable.
and accessible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So more people could have a nice suit.
Yeah.
So these two things happening at the same time really changed,
Yeah. The world of suits.
the suit world.
Yeah, totally.
And then after World War II, Italian designers started to become
Oh, yeah.
very influential.
They brought a whole different vibe,
Yeah, they really did.
like a sprezzatura,
Yes.
which is like a sort of effortless elegance.
Yes, effortless.
Yeah.
So they kind of brought their own style,
They made it cool.
to the world.
Yeah.
And we also can't forget about Hollywood in the mid-20th century.
No, of course not.
Which really...
Cary Grant.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, all of those iconic actors wearing beautiful suits.
Yeah, it made it look so cool.
Yeah, it was aspirational, wasn't it?
Extremely.
Yeah, yeah. And Musgrave doesn't just end the story there.
No.
He takes us through like the 80s with the power suits.
Oh, yeah, Armani.
Yeah, those big shoulders.
Huge shoulders.
Yeah.
And then in the 90s, we have the more minimalist suits.
Prada.
Like Prada, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting to see how the suit changed and, you know...
It reinvented itself.
Reinvented itself.
Yeah.
And it's not even just about, you know, the way that the suit looks. It's about the meaning.
The meaning has changed.
Of the suit.
Yeah.
Because, you know, at first it was a way for people to show, like...
Respectability.
Respectability, yeah.
Like conservative values, you know.
But then it became cool.
Yeah.
It became rebellious.
Yeah.
You know?
Think about, like, gangsters.
Yes, gangsters in pinstripes.
Yeah.
Or rock stars on stage wearing these tailored jackets.
It's a completely different image.
Totally different. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
So this suit becomes this really interesting chameleon.
It does shifting and changing with the times.
Mm-hmm.
So how does Musgrave take us deeper into all these different meanings?
He does it in a really clever way.
Okay.
The book has 8 chapters.
Okay.
And each chapter looks at a different theme or symbol of the suit.
So it's not just chronological.
It's not.
It's more layers.
Way more layered, yeah.
That's great.
So the first chapter is called Convention or Fashion.
Okay. Interesting.
And it looks at the single-breasted suit.
Which is the classic.
Yeah, the classic, yeah. And it talks about how even though like the lapels change and the buttons change.
The fit changes.
The fit, you know. Yeah. The single-breasted suit has always been like a staple.
A staple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because in this chapter, Musgrave really looks at this tension between, you know, sticking to the rules of tailoring.
Yeah.
And also like being fashionable.
So the classic versus the trendy.
Yes, exactly.
That's fascinating.
And then we have a chapter called A Question of Balance, which is all about the double-breasted suit.
Oh, I love a good double-breasted suit.
They're so nice.
So elegant and powerful.
They have so much presence, right?
Yeah.
Like when someone walks into a room wearing a double-breasted suit.
You notice.
You notice.
Yeah.
And Musgrave talks about how that extra fabric really gives it this feeling of like elegance
and
swagger. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you have to be kind of confident.
You have to own it.
To wear a double-breasted suit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And especially if it's like a 6 or 8 button.
Oh, yeah.
Like that is
a statement.
A statement.
Yeah. So you've got the single-breasted, the classic, the double-breasted with all that extra fabric. Mm-hmm. What comes next?
Then we move on to patterns.
Okay.
The chapter is called Princes Among Men, the striped suit.
Okay.
And in this chapter, Musgrave really digs into like the history of stripes, pinstripes, chalk stripes, and how they're connected to like English royalty and also like...
Oh, the financial elite.
The financial elite.
The powerful people.
The powerful, yeah.
Yeah.
And he explains how those stripes, you know, came to represent like authority and
boldness.
A little bit of daring. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love the title of this chapter.
Yeah. Princes Among Men.
Because it really refers to both like the actual princes and the, you know, the people who are like the top of their field.
The industry titans.
Yes, exactly.
The captains of industry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So next we're going to go to Italy. Okay. It's one of my favorite chapters.
Oh, tell me about it.
It's called The Italian Job, the checked suit.
I love it.
And this chapter talks about how Italian tailoring is so different from British tailoring.
Yeah, softer shoulders.
Softer shoulders.
It's a little more expressive.
Yeah, and they love patterns.
Yes.
They love checks. They love plaids.
Yeah, big plaids.
And it's so interesting because even the Duke of Windsor,
a British-style icon?
A British-style icon, loved wearing check suits because it felt more relaxed.
Yeah.
And Musgrave also talks about Gianni Agnelli.
Oh, yes.
And Giorgio Armani.
Of course.
Who are like Italian-style icons.
Yeah.
And they also love checks and plaids.
They did.
Yeah.
So even though checks can be seen as quite formal, they found a way to make them more relaxed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we're going to head to America for the chapter. U.S. Male. The white suit.
Oh, yes.
And this is all about how the white suit is such an American thing.
It is a very American thing, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because it can mean so many different things.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if you think of Mark Twain, he wore like those white linen suits.
Yeah.
And it's very like relaxed and summery.
Yeah.
But then you think about like Hollywood.
Yeah.
And it's more glamorous.
Yeah.
And then you even have like, you know, in The Great Gatsby or Miami Vice.
Yeah.
where the white suit is almost like a little
dangerous.
Yeah. So it's really interesting how one garment
can have so many meanings.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
So it's almost like a chameleon.
It is a chameleon, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we go to Paris.
Okay.
For the chapter. Passion from Paris. The Dormule suits.
Okay.
And this is all about French textiles.
Okay.
And this company called Dormue.
Yeah.
Which is a very famous fabric house.
Yeah. Luxurious fabric.
It's extremely luxurious.
Yeah.
And Musgrave talks about how, the quality of the fabric really influences the style of the suit.
Yeah.
And he even mentions the mohair tonic suits.
Oh, yeah.
That were popular with the mods in the 60s.
Yeah, those shiny suits.
Yeah. So it's interesting to think about how, like,
technology
of fabric.
Yeah.
Really influences fashion.
Totally.
Yeah.
So we've gone through the history. We've looked at these different themes. But the suit isn't just an abstract garment. There are real people who wear suits.
Yeah.
So how does Musgrave bring those individuals into the story?
Well, he really focuses on how people use suits to create an image.
Yes, like a personal brand.
Almost like a brand. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, the saying clothes make the man is so true.
That's true.
And so he has these chapters where he looks at different
icons,
who have used the suit.
Well, as a tool.
As a tool.
To project an image.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So one of the best chapters is Lost in Music, the Bowie suits.
Oh, wow. David Bowie, a true style icon.
Incredible style icon.
Yeah.
And, especially in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
He wore these amazing suits.
Like costumes almost.
Yeah, they were almost like costumes.
Yeah.
And Musgrave talks about, some of his most famous looks.
Like that yellow suit.
Oh, the yellow suit.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it really shows how the suit can be like a form of
self-expression.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Bowie wasn't the only musician to do this.
Right.
James Brown.
Oh, yeah.
Wore these really sharp suits.
Yeah.
The Rat Pack wore tuxedos.
Yeah. They all had their own tailoring style.
They did.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is they didn't reject the suit. They just kind of
reimagined it
and made it their own.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we see this even today.
Yeah.
Like, think about the Beatles when they first started.
Oh, yeah.
They wore those matching suits.
Yeah.
Or Beyonce's band.
Oh, yeah.
Wear suits on stage.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how the suit has been used both to
conform and to rebel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fascinating.
It is really interesting.
And then we go to Hollywood.
Okay.
For the chapter of the magic of the movies.
Ooh, I love this one.
And this chapter is all about how movies have shaped
our perceptions of the suit.
Our idea of what a suit is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Musgrave talks about so many iconic suits.
Like Cary Grant in North by Northwest.
Yeah.
That gray suit. So classic.
Yeah.
And then you have the gangsters in The Godfather.
Oh, yes.
And Guys and Dolls.
Yeah.
With their pinstripes.
Yeah.
And then James Bond.
Of course.
In his tuxedos.
Yeah.
And even the guys in Reservoir Dogs.
Oh, yeah. The black suits.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's so interesting to see how the suit can be used to tell a story.
Yeah.
In a movie.
And to tell us about the character.
Yeah, are they good?
Yeah.
Are they bad?
Yeah, good guy, bad guy.
Are they, traditional? Are they changing?
Changing, yeah.
I know.
It's all there in the suit.
It really is, yeah.
Yeah.
And Musgrave doesn't just focus on these, main characters.
Right.
He talks about Edward VII and the Duke of Windsor.
Yeah.
And how they use suits
to modernize
the royal image.
The monarch?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he talks about costume designers in Hollywood.
Yeah.
A lot of whom were trained on Savile Row.
Oh, wow.
So it's really interesting to see how, those techniques
were used to create these iconic looks. And he also talks about so many other people, like
Winston Churchill,
Mick Jagger.
Oh, yeah. Very different vibe.
Very different. But they both
wore suits. Yeah.
And they both used suits to kind of create their image.
Yeah. It's amazing.
So Musgrave really emphasizes how adaptable the suit is.
It's like that chameleon.
Like a chameleon, yeah.
Yeah.
And the book isn't just interesting to read.
Right.
It's beautiful to look at.
It really is.
Yeah, GQ said it's beautifully illustrated and extensively researched.
Yeah, and it has almost 150 images.
It does.
That's a lot of visuals.
So many photos and film stills and advertisements.
Yeah.
Like everything you could imagine.
Yeah.
And the photos are so good. You can see how the suit changed over time.
Yeah.
Like you could look at a photo from the 20s.
Yeah.
And then a photo from the 60s.
Yeah.
And you can see how different the suits are.
Yeah, the cut, the fit, the style.
Everything, yeah.
Yeah.
And it really helps you understand, like,
The evolution.
the evolution of the suit.
Absolutely.
And the captions are really good, too,
Oh, yeah.
because they give you even more information.
Like a mini history lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like there's a photo of Muhammad Ali
Oh, wow.
wearing this amazing checked jacket.
Yeah.
And the caption talks about how African Americans were interpreting British style
Oh, interesting.
at that time.
Yeah.
And then there's a still from The Godfather.
Okay.
And the caption explains how double-breasted suits were made in the 40s.
Oh, wow.
So it's really interesting to see how those little details
Yeah.
are explained.
Yeah.
And you can see how Musgrave's background in fashion journalism really comes through
Yeah.
in those captions.
Yeah.
And, the book has gotten so much praise.
Yeah. It won the Financial Times Fashion Book of the Year.
It did.
Yeah.
And people have said that it really fills a gap
Yeah.
in fashion writing.
Yeah.
Because before this book, you either have like how-to guides
Yeah.
or very academic books.
Yeah.
But this book is both like informative
Yeah.
and entertaining.
Yeah.
And Simon Crompton from Permanent Style
Oh, yeah.
said that this book could be called A History of the Suit
Wow.
and that it's as good as Dressing the Man by Alan Flusser.
That's high praise.
Extremely high praise.
Yeah.
But the two books are different.
Yeah.
Dressing the Man is more about like
Rules.
rules. Yeah, like what you should wear.
Yeah.
But Musgrave's book is more about like
Why?
why the suit is important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the cultural impact.
The cultural. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's really interesting to kind of learn about that.
Absolutely.
And one review I read said that the book is a pleasure to read,
Yeah.
which is great.
That's a great compliment for a book.
It is.
Yeah.
Because it's teaching you, but it's also like
And Troy.
enjoyable to read.
Mhm.
And the way that the book is structured really helps with that because you see these connections that you wouldn't see.
If it was just chronological.
They're just chronological, yeah.
Yeah.
So, you might read about a suit from the 30s.
Yeah.
And then you read about a suit from the 70s.
Yeah.
And you see like, oh, these two things are actually connected.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah.
It's a very holistic view.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Musgrave also includes some personal stories.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it makes it feel more
Personal.
personal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like there's a story of a brown double-breasted suit that he had made,
Oh, no.
which didn't turn out so well.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
But it's funny.
Yeah, and there's a story about a cellophane suit.
A cellophane suit.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine.
You have to read it.
Wow.
It's wild.
Okay, so tell me, what's the big takeaway from this book?
Well, I think the main takeaway is that the suit is so much more.
It meets the eyes.
It meets the eye.
Yeah.
It can be powerful.
Yeah.
It can be elegant.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
can be rebellious. It can be eccentric.
Yeah.
It really is a chameleon.
It is, and it reflects so much about the wearer.
So much about the wearer and the culture.
And the culture, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyone listening who's even a little bit interested in menswear, this book is definitely worth checking out.
Absolutely, because it really explains, the history of the suit,
Yeah.
but also like why the suit is still important today.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a beautiful book to have,
Yeah.
on your coffee table.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend it.
So I think a good final thought for our listener to consider is how even today, the choice of whether to wear a suit or not, to wear a suit, is still a really powerful statement.
Yeah, it is.
It says something about who you are and what you want to project.
Yeah.
And all of that is built on this really rich history that Musgrave explores in Sharp Suits.
It makes you look at suits
Yeah.
in a whole new way.
In a whole new light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not just about fabric and thread anymore.
Yeah. It's about so much more.